Hi there, welcome to the Build and Learn series where SolidWorks meets Lego for some fun and learning. In our second lesson, we're taking the part we created in the first, splitting it in half to create a smaller part, and we're also then saving a copy of that to create our third part, which has some small open C-clips on it. At the end of the lesson, we'll start our assembly and start aligning our parts together. Hope you enjoy. Create a 3-in-1 off-road buggy. Now, in our first lesson on this subject, we built this, a little plate, 2x2, with configurations going up to 2x8. 2x8 being the largest one needed for this assembly. Now, there's a bit more work to do on this part, which we'll add in later. We'll come back to some detailing at different points throughout the process. But how we're going to run from here, if we go to this set here, is we're going to build the parts in order that they come up in the assembly instructions. So I wasn't aware, but our 2x2 brick is number 1, but we now have a 2x1 and another piece here, which we will find out in a second what they are. So that green brick is going to be called we can search for it here. Go to 3Q8. It is a plate 1x2. Now, I think the best thing or smartest thing to do will be to use this, our plate 2x, and to add one of these configurations, which will be 2x1. And we're going to add this one in manually, all right, because it's going to act a bit different to the rest of them, because in the 2x1, we're going to come up here before the shell. Now let's just have a look at the part itself. So, and you can see it doesn't have a big circle in the middle, just got the little circle. So the detail's a little bit different. The top's the same. And we'll put some measurements in to see exactly how big that is. So we will change that detail. And we're going to do it here. And the way we'll do it is to come up to this point, and we'll use our right plane. And let's see if we can't cut a side off and see if those parts will be central. Now, I get the feeling they won't be. First, let's measure. Now, we have here should be 15.8, which it is. And then the skinny side looks like 7.8. If we click on that edge, 7.9. Now, what I'm interested in seeing is how close those are to the center point here. And I can see that it is 0.11 of a millimeter off being the center. So what I'm going to suggest we do is we do an offset face, 0.11. We're going to move this face inwards. Right, now we should find that this line is vertical. Let's see what's going on there. 0.6. Okay, sorry, to 0.2 we have to move it. 0.22. And now that line is 0, 0. And now our measurement is 7.7. 7.68. In fact, I think it's a tiny bit small. So what we're going to do now is just move both sides out 0.6. Okay, so now it is in the middle, and we have a 7.8 millimeter dimension, and it is only for this configuration. So that's cool. Now, if we roll down, we get the shell. Perfect. And then this extrude, we're going to suppress that one, and we'll do a new one on the bottom and draw a circle. So we can measure this one, basically 3 millimeters. We can use the midpoint of this line to line it up horizontally, and the midpoint of this edge to line it up vertically. And if we just look at this sketch here, there was a 0.8 mil offset for the inside. So we'll do the same here. Offset 0.8, reverse direction. Okay. And then extrude up to this surface. Yep. Yes. Like that. So let's check that it's worked. Firstly, let's save. Second, let's go back to our default configuration. Check that there's no problems. Fine. All our other configurations. Fine. And then our 2x1. Yeah, fantastic. It's how quick it can be to do these parts. Very happy with that. Next one. Our instruction list is item number 6310268. There's a plate modified 1x2 with 2 open O-clips. Okay, unfettered name. Let's find one and then let's build it. Now, first off, we can see that this part, you go back here, this part, very similar to this part. Okay, you're basically using the same starting point, and then it's 2 C-clips on the ends, which are going to be different detail. So we saw the name of that. It is a plate modified with 2 open O-clips, horizontal grip. I'm going to select this name, and then I'm going to go into this file, and I'm going to save as. I'm going to save as a copy and open. And I'm going to paste the new name. Plate modified 201 with 2 open O clips horizontal. Just going to add a dash in there. I'm going to go save. Now, when I do save as copy and open, it's going to open a new file, which is the copy of the original. So if I go to my window with Control Tab, you can see that I've got the original here, and then I've got a new file over on the left, which is the one I've got open right here. So first step, we could delete all these configurations and clear things up. But if we ever come across another Lego piece that's actually like, instead of 2x1, it's 2x2 or 2x3, and it's got these same open O clips, then it'll be extra work then to add it back in. So in this example, I'm going to suggest that we just leave it there as is, so it's not causing any harm. It's not a lot of data, and we just keep building on this file in this configuration as it is right now. The only thing I will note is where this plane is, the right plane, because when we do have those other configurations, they go out that direction. So I think it'll be wise to build the clips on this side, because this face will not change. Okay. So first we'll just do a dimension check, just see if it's the same as everything else. So 15.8, yep, and then 7.8, yep. Cool. So now we've got to do this little C-clip detail. This face here on the bottom, you see it's flat, okay? So it comes flat from that face, and then we have the C shape that goes below that and above the top edge. All right, so we're going to draw that in. Have a cut across this face. We have a circle in the middle, all right? And in this example, I think what we'll do is sketch it and add some dimensions as we go a bit later. So start with the big circle. I'm going to do also a little circle. I'm going to do a straight line. I'm going to use my trim tool to trim that away. It's not right at all, but that's okay. I think we'll find there's this a straight edge here and here. All right. So obviously the straight edge at the bottom joining onto this. So you can see when I'm sketching, I'm trying to purposely get the horizontal relation added. Just saves me time. There's also a horizontal relation here. There is a fillet. So if we have a look here, you can see that there's a curve in the shape. All right. But this one thing that I do want to note is that the 3D model here is not as accurate as what we're going for. And what I can see in this, I'll try and get a little macro shot for you. Okay. There's a little flat edge that comes across the top before the fillet. Apologies how small it is, but I don't think the fillet joins straight away. I think it's flat, and you can kind of see that this angle with the light is the same. So we're going to draw that a little bit different now. So we've got it here, and we'll put a radius in afterwards. So let's trim that. Okay. So this looks good. Now first, the faces on that C, I can see they're not flat as I've drawn them here. They actually angle in. So I'm going to have to change this and just give it a very slight angle. All right. We'll clean that up later. We will, though, say that the outer points are vertical. So these two, which means they're in line. And this is one that we can measure. So I can measure from that outside to that point there, and I can get an accurate measurement. In this case, I'm getting 13.5. So I'm going to go from this edge to this point, 13.5. All right. Now, I'm not so surprised about the change in shape there. So I'm just going to bring it back, and I want to change this dimension later, but not yet. I'm just going to type in there a little note, and that's just a reminder for me to say I need to change it to that dimension. I just don't want to lose the shape that I've got as I'm sketching it right now until I've got a few more dimensions on. Okay, the overall diameter of this circle, easy, 6. Now, when I click here, it's going to give me a radius. I can type 3, but I can click on that. If I wanted a diameter, I can click on the liters button, and I can change it from a radius to a diameter. Can do a little trick there for you. Okay, so let's clean up this side. These two sections are vertical as well. The hole on the inside, that's close enough to 3. So it might be like 2.9. So 1.5. But again, let's just change that to a diameter, right? Now, some things are going to be very difficult to actually measure, given how small they are. Like the angle that this face goes in on those two parts. So what I'm going to do instead is guess based on sort of my eye and experience. And I'm going to say they're 10 degrees from there. And what else could we dimension now? Well, we can let's see if we can fix this dimension now, 13.5. Okay, that's much better. Let's bring this around here. Let's also make a little flat edge. So the little flat edge I'm talking about is, see this face here? Now in this model, it's angled out, but when I look closely at this, they look nearly vertical to me. In reality, maybe they are out, maybe one is even down. Measuring this kind of detail, nearly impossible. It would be a toolmaker discussion, designer discussion. I'm sure they've done lots of engineering on it. We're going to keep them flat, so that's fine from my point of view. Just going to make those vertical. What I can do though, I can measure the opening. So this is different to measuring my diameter. I'm measuring the opening between those 2 points. Okay, so while the diameter itself is, I'm getting about 3, the opening, it's not that much smaller, about 2.9. So that's between these two here. Okay, starting to take shape. I can measure. Again, we're trying to fully define this sketch, right? So I can measure from the opening to the back face, which is about 10.4. Go from this edge, hold shift, as here, 10.4.
What happened? What can you take us?
Get rid of the note, it's there. And then, you know, what I always taught my students, when you're seeing underdefined features, click and drag and see what moves. And that's what typically is going to need a relation added. In this case, it's kind of a height, all right? So we know that the grip goes lower than the base. So how much lower? So is there a way that we can measure this? Yes, I think, but not with these calipers. We could try and measure from the top face, kind of flat. It's so small, but it's going to be hard to get accurate. So I'm going to put a guess in, and I'm going to guess that it's actually this full height controls the center point, like this. Like that looks pretty good to me. And I'm going to close up the sketch with a line here. And now I can do that fillet as well. So again, I was saying that there is a fillet between these. It's obviously less than 1.18. I'm going to put in 1. And is there a fillet on the bottom as well? Say yes. I'm going to put the same one in there for consistency. All right, and then we have a fully defined face. Now, the remaining detail. So where there's these 2 clips, what's this button do? Oh, that's better. Gives you an image. Cool. All right, so we can extrude the width. We can do it on one side and then mirror it. Or we can do both sides and then do a cut in between.
What? Did I cut these?
Normally I prefer the mirror. Then it's all mostly controlled in one feature, right? So we can control the whole width of this in the first feature, and then the second one's just duplicating it. Whereas if we do a full extrude for both, and then we do a cut for both, that's 2 features that control the geometry. Make sense? So here we can measure the width. It's going to be 11.1. So we can go to extrude, and it is, all right, we're going to do the maths. Okay, so it's going out to 11.1. The gap in between them is 4.8. So 11.1 minus 4.8 divided by 2, 3.15. We can also measure this. Yep. And so it's going to be that distance out, offset, 4.8 divided by 2. And then if we mirror that around the front plane, remember our front plane is going right through the center. We get a mirror feature, this one. And if we now measure it, we should be getting, I said 11.1 in 4.8. And that's all controlled in this feature here, okay, with these measurements. So if we need to make any changes later, we just change that one feature. Okay, fantastic. We now have enough parts done to start our assembly. We're going to start with that one there. So I'm going to go back to this. I'm going to go to the default version. I'm going to click New Assembly. I'm going to import that 2x2 piece. I'm going to float it and use my origin to fully define it. Now that means that later we can delete this mate and we can reorient everything based around this part. Probably later it'll be based around other parts that we've added. Might be the wheels, might be the main body, but for now everything's going to be referencing this part from here on. And now we're going to insert some components. Now I'm making a copy of this part here, so I can just click Control on my keyboard, click the part and make a copy. And then to change the configuration, I click on the drop down and there we go. For the other part, a modified one, I'll bring it in like this. Now in our assembly, one main thing we want to do is just get our orientation right. we're going to make let's look at the front. So this will be the front of the buggy, the front being where the lights are going. So we're having the right plane going through the middle. And that's why I've turned it on here. This is always going to help us with our orientation. So in the Lego images that we see here, it's not an isometric view, maybe dimetric. If I do the same thing here, maybe trimetric, isometric. Okay, we're going to correlate this view to what we see in the instructions, unless they tilt them around. So let's put those parts in. Now we're going to start with basic mates and make things all, just going to keep it simple. I'm just adding standard coincident mates. It's okay. And we'll see how things are lining up. They're looking pretty good. Cool. Let's save. Now, Lego library assemblies. And this one is the 31123 off-road buggy. Pretty sure that's what they call that. Yep. So that's how we're going to name it. 31123 off-road buggy. We can always change things later. All right. Excellent. Hey, thanks for watching all the way to the end. Really appreciate that. This has been the Lego Build and Learn series by Fully Defined. If the next video has been released, it'll be on the top link to your right. Please hit the thumbs up and subscribe, and leave a comment below with what you'd like to see next. Your feedback is what motivates me to provide more content. See you in the next one.